Please remain standing for our scripture reading from Matthew 25:35 through 40, which we heard in the children's message, found in the New Testament on page 50 of the Pew Bibles. Also, it's on the screen. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when it was that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did it for one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
All right. Next, you may be seated. Next is the Carolina Cross sharing.
Yeah, we had two mission teams this summer. One was a youth team, and it was a couple months ago that they did their mission trip. This mission team with the Carolina Cross Connection. So we have a video to share, and Evan Gross from that team is going to speak to us. And following that, we'll hear from the Puerto Rico mission trip, which was an adult mission trip to Puerto Rico.
Come set your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increase in us, we pray. Unveil why we're made. Come set our hearts ablaze with hope, like wildfire in our very souls. Holy Spirit, come invade us now. We are your church. We need your power in us. And we seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. We refuse to waste our lives. For you are our joy and prize. To see the captive hearts released, the hurt, the sick, the poor at peace. We lay down our lives for heaven's good. We are your church. We pray, revive this earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness flee. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness flee. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray.
All right. So as you may know, this camp at CCC was only for the senior high. So the senior high youth, we went this past summer to Carolina Cross Connection, which has many different camps. This camp is called Home Repair, I believe. And this, we just go out and we repair homes around the Wilkesboro area of North Carolina. There's another camp where they go out and they spend time with the homeless in North Carolina. And there's even another camp where they go overseas to Honduras and something similar to what they did in Puerto Rico. So the general gist of what we did, we would go out for 5 days, Monday through Friday, from about 9 to 5, and with about 8 to 9 total strangers, we would do various home repair projects pretty much. And so my week, my first 2 days, we spent painting a house. It wasn't a very large house, it was a 1-story house, but when you think about it, painting a whole house is generally something you would like call a professional to do. So we kind of knew what we were doing. We had one pastor in our group that had been doing this for 7 years, so we had a good bit of experience, but it was still a pretty hard project. We got it done pretty early on the second day, and not the main thing about this camp is not only to do the projects that you do in these people's homes, but to connect with the homeowners. So after about noon that day, we finished. I don't think we even had the lunch that the camp gave us. We went out and got lunch at some restaurant, but for about at least an hour, we talked, just had a conversation, all of us, about 10 of us in this one room, talking with the homeowner. And to me, and I'm sure everyone else there, that was a really powerful experience because you learn about the hardships that these people have gone through, the family members they've lost, and the reasons why they need this. And you feel like you've done more than just a paint job. You've filled a hole in these people's lives. So that was just one of the projects we did. And the next 2 days, we went to a house about an hour from the middle school that we were staying at, and we built a wheelchair ramp. It was about 24 feet long, and so you think about it, that's another quite hard project that normally other professionals would do. You need a lot of equipment for this. So the biggest part of this project was planning it out, because you can't just go cutting lumber and you'd waste all your wood. And so we had to plan it out. We had everything drawn out. This was a long project. We didn't finish early at all. And again, there was in this house there was a lady and her mom living there, and then there was essentially a nurse that would come every day and help them out throughout their day. And at the end of this, we had them come out onto the wheelchair ramp that we just built, and the mom, who was very old, you could just see the joy in her eyes pretty much. So it was a very powerful experience again, and I think all of us just really realized how much we were doing. More than just building a wheelchair ramp, we were doing like what these people had asked for many years. So it's a very powerful experience. In the last day, we didn't really quite as much do any home repair. We went to a nursing home, and you might have seen on the video, another group also went there. They went to the same place we did. Other groups did, went to food pantries and helped out. So, but at the nursing home, we made bread with one of the residents. Then we went outside and we did like exercises and helped her. This particular resident liked to manicure the garden, and then we had a speaker and we played just classic songs pretty much, like Amazing Grace, and sing with her. That was a really cool experience. But in this camp, we stayed at a middle school, and each year there's a different theme, and all the 3 camps I explained, they all do the same theme. So on the back of my shirt, it says Nineveh, which, as you might be able to guess, we are learning about Jonah this week. And if you've ever read Jonah, it's not the longest book. There's only about 4 chapters. It takes about 2 pages. So we went very in depth in Jonah, and it was a really cool experience being able to see the world through Jonah's eyes, which helped me change. I'm sure it helped everyone change as they left through the week and go back to their communities and help in the same way that Jonah did. So this trip, I would like to thank the congregation and their support with the youth and everything that you guys do, because it would not be possible without the congregation's support. I'd like to thank Tim and his wife Sarah. I know Tim is now gone, but he was very helpful. He was our main leader, obviously, throughout the week, but this was his first year going, and he did great things throughout the week. And our other adult was Matt Silva. He's pretty much a construction guru, but he's great. He knows about everything you can know. So he was a great leader. And the last person I'd like to thank is RJ. You saw the picture that he came down to the camp for about 30 minutes. But it's a 2-hour drive. So when you think about it, that was a great time. I thank you, RJ, for doing that, because I think everyone there, about the 10 of us from our church who were there, felt very powerful after RJ came down. We felt at home, and it's good that he came down with his family. And I would like to encourage the rest of the youth, anyone else who thought that CCC might be something they don't want to do. It's not really powerful at all, but it's a great experience. You get to see the world through different eyes after you come down, and you help your community more, as well as the community as you go to in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. So, thank you.
I want to underline one thing Evan said. We sort of knew what we were doing. Think about that when we talk about Puerto Rico. Now, please stand as you are able and sing from the Small Black Hymnal, page 2237, As a Fire is Meant for Burning. Please stand.
Is there someone pushing you to leave your comfort zone, encouraging you to get out of your box, or, like Peter, to get out of the boat? Stretch your wings, expand your horizons? Is that someone God? 9 of us at Raleigh Court United Methodist Church answered that call this summer. we journeyed over 1,500 miles to San Juan, Puerto Rico to help with Hurricane Maria recovery. Why did we go that far? Because there were, and still are, people in need, and God blessed us with the resources and ability to go. Jesus told Peter, "Take care of my sheep," in John chapter 21, verse 16. Each of us had our own concerns and worries. Can I do the work? Will we have electricity? Where will I sleep? I don't speak Spanish. How will I do in the heat? Will there be bottled water? And just how big are those mosquitoes? But one of the big lessons God taught us during the trip is He provides. For us, God provided beds with mattresses, fans and air conditioners for the bedrooms, a fun, hard-working interpreter in Gregory, Sylvia, who happily and lovingly provided our meals, including gluten-free and hot sauce, the wonderfully hospitable people of IMLA, plenty of bottled water, a worksite with electricity and fans, an ice cream store right down from the church, tools and supplies to get the work done, extra help when we needed it, a spirit of camaraderie and cooperation between us, temperatures in the mid-80s instead of higher, a weed eater, a delightful and appreciative homeowner and his sister and brother-in-law who brought us lunch twice, very few bugs, safety at the worksite and in all of our travels, a sense of humor, working cell phone service, a team with skills and abilities that complemented each other. Was it hot? Yes. Was it demanding work in less than ideal conditions? Yes. Did we sleep wonderfully every night? No. But we followed where God led us, and we were able to build a railing for the steps, install wall and ceiling panels, and paint everything that didn't move. And what wonderful progress we made in getting Dennis's house and life closer to normal. We were just one small part in God's plan to help Dennis and Puerto Rico, but none of us will ever forget the experience.
I can't say that was my favorite picture of me, but okay. It was typical though. And I want to say, while I was watching the video for the youth, I was so jealous of all the tools they had. The row of hammers, I think, what we have 2 hammers. Who's got the hammer? Where's the hammer? Where's the screwdriver? And the table saw, I know RJ would have loved. And drills and things. We were a bit challenged in the tool area, but God did provide, as you saw, but we did not have as many tools as the youth had. So it's back to school time, and I was thinking about my time going back to school, which is long past. But I don't know about you. Did you always have in the elementary school, first thing you do is go, what I did during my summer break? You always had to write a paragraph or talk about it. So I thought I'd have a little fun with this, and I'm going to read you my essay, What I Did During My Summer Break, by Ellen McJimsey. This summer, part of my family and I went to Puerto Rico with some members of our church. Our boss, God, told us to go. We were supposed to help rebuild someone's house after Hurricane Maria. There were 2 things that really stand out about this trip. I was a little worried about the mosquitoes and getting too grumpy in the heat. Also a little worried about Meredith, our daughter. She was in Savannah. My mother-in-law, I was worried about her, who had been in the hospital twice in the previous 6 weeks before we went, and leaving my mother-in-law's dog in the kennel for the first time. Who would take care of them if anything happened? And what about electricity and self-service and air conditioning? What about all that? There were so many unknowns. Some people may know things about me, that I'm a planner and an organizer, which in other words means I like to be in control, as well as a recovering worrier, not warrior, worrier, like worry. Maybe this trip was part of God's 22-step program to get me to loosen up and depend on Him. Now, I meant to type 12-step program, but I typed 22-step, and I was going to go fix it, and I'm like, No, 22 steps is probably about right. Actually, it's more like a 52-step program to get me to stop worrying. But anyway, I had to tell you about that. So maybe this trip was part of God's 22-step program to get me to loosen up and depend on Him. The Bible says to trust in the Lord, but knowing that and doing that are two different things. But God has been working on me for many years, and it seems to have accelerated in the past several. Well, with Caroline traveling to places like China, and then going off to college, and Meredith going to Savannah for 5 weeks, I've had plenty of opportunities to practice casting my cares on Him. And He has been faithful and answered my prayers for safety, guidance, and provision. So I prepared the best I could for this trip with the information we had. I prayed and took the leap of faith. Once we got on that plane, there wasn't a whole lot that we had control over. But once again, God proved to me that He is almighty, gracious, and faithful. He provided. And you saw Christine talked about a lot of the things that He provided for us. Not that it was easy, comfortable, or stress-free, but God provided what we needed to get through and do the work He assigned for us. For me, I think this will be a watershed memory. As God constantly reminded the Israelites of how He provided for them during their 40 years in the wilderness, He's already reminded me several times since we returned from Puerto Rico, when I've started to worry or go in control mode, of how He provided for us. So I immediately cast my cares onto God, and then I go on to something else. The other thing I continue to think about is the people. The members of Iglesia Metodista Los Angeles, that's my best attempt at that, where we stayed, are warm and hospitable, thankful, and full of joy. We are overwhelmed by their greeting and inspired by their energetic and joyful worship service. They love their music and they sing out with passion, and some of them also bring their own tambourines to service. In general, the people of Puerto Rico, at least the ones we saw around the San Juan area, like bright colors on their homes, on their clothing, and they have a lot of public art with murals painted around the area. And I just think that's a reflection of their spirit. It was wonderful getting to see that side of the Puerto Rican people. For me, the trip to Puerto Rico was one of growing and learning. Growing in my faith and trust in God to provide, and learning about the Puerto Rican people. And that is what I did during my summer break. I also want to thank, Evan, and I think I speak for our entire team. I want to acknowledge everyone and thank everyone who contributed, either monetarily or with prayers or both, because we did need a lot of prayers, but we all, I think, saw them answered, and we felt your love and guidance while we were there, and we certainly, God did provide for us, so thank you all for your support.
Good morning. As Ellen just said, my first thought is I want to thank Raleigh Court for the support and for not only monetary, but again, for the prayers that you had for us getting on the airplane and leaving. When we first left, or when we first got together, we were curious about where we're going to sleep. We really didn't know where we were going to be until 2 days before we left. They decided, I'm a little close or something, they decided that we were, the 3 places they told us we were going to be, well, we weren't in any of those. They told us we weren't going to have electricity, and we did. The great blessing was at night we were able to sleep in air conditioning, which made getting up in the morning and getting back out to work much, much easier than we had thought was going to be. Flying into San Juan, you got to look out the windows and you saw a lot of blue tarps still. I can't imagine what it looked like a couple of days after the hurricane, or even a couple of months, because this has been like 9 months and we're showing up. But there was still a lot of blue tarps, a lot of damage, and we were just, my thoughts were, okay, what are we going to be able to do? What difference are we going to make? When we got there, we were met with open arms, plenty of food. I thought I'd go there and lose some weight. Actually, I came back, had gained some weight. They never let you go hungry. Our first day, we got up Sunday morning. We flew in Saturday night. We got up Sunday morning, and we went to their church, which we were staying in. The church service, of course, was in Spanish, so we were all kind of, or especially me, we were just kind of, trying to follow along. About, I guess, 3/4 of the way through the service, this young man walked up to the front of the church, and several men walked over and started putting his hands on him. And this lady who was in the choir, she stood up and she starts pointing. You. And I thought she was pointing to the lady in front of me. So the lady in front of me stood up. She said, no, you sit down. You. And she was pointing to me. And she said, you come up here. And then she pointed to Rich. And then she pointed to RJ. And I thought, oh, I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll go up. And what they wanted us to do was, this man was giving his life to Christ that day. And they wanted all the men in the church to put their hands on him while he was being blessed. That's how our week started. From there, it just went up. The work, as Ellen said, was the weather and the work was hard. The first day we showed up, we had no materials. We only had the hand tools that we brought. And we were all standing there going, okay, is this the way the week's going to go? But it changed. It was hot. The humidity was probably about 97% all the time. When you got up in the morning, you stepped out of your room, my glasses immediately fogged up. That's how hot it was just in the hallway. But we survived. They told us we wouldn't have hot water. We didn't, but I'm gonna tell you what, I've had the best cold showers down there I ever had in my life. The people, you couldn't have asked for any more opening, friendly. They always wanted to hug you. They always wanted to make sure that you had plenty to eat, that everything was okay. They fixed us breakfast, they packed us lunch, and they had huge dinner waiting for us every night. Got a little tired of beans and rice, but we got over it. Can you imagine being someplace? Our interpreter, Gregory, spoke that he was without electricity for 82 days. He spent one day, he spent 26 hours in line at a gas station just to get fuel for his generator. I can't imagine personally, I can't imagine going 82 days without electricity. But they did. They're island people. They're used to storms. They're used to these things happening. And they have overcome. There's still plenty to do down there. There's plenty of homes that need to be repaired. And as Ellen said, when we first got there, we were wondering, what are we doing? RJ said last week in his service, stepping out of the box. We definitely stepped out of the box. We thought we'd stepped in the big hole, but we didn't. One of our favorite places for food, or there was two. We had an ice cream parlor down the street from where we were staying, and every night we visited. Sue was kind of the leader in this. She asked for ice cream one night, and we weren't sure what she asked for. I'm not even sure she knew what she asked for, but we all ate it. But the biggest reason we went there was air conditioning. You could sit in the air conditioning because the church was not air conditioned at all. But further down the street, there was a place called Bebo's. And Bebo's is a rib and chicken place. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's always a line. So we had to visit it, of course. So we got to go to Bebo's and taste some of their great chicken and ribs. Some of the things that happened at the house, Mr. Dennis the house we were working on. This gentleman, the house was probably, just a very small, probably 700, 800 square foot house. He had lost everything in it. 8 or 9 months earlier, someone had been there and they had completely gutted it, put a new roof on it, and left it. He had running water in his bathroom, but that's about it. He had a gas stove that was hooked to a propane tank, which was sitting right next to it, so we didn't want to turn that on too much. But they were so grateful that we were there. And as the week went on and we got things done, you saw the pictures of the house. We put walls up, which RJ had to cut every board that was put on the walls, every one. And we didn't have a table saw or anything. It was pretty much done by hand or by battery saws. We got it up. The ladies painted, they caulked, they cleaned. Everyone worked together. It was truly a gift that everyone just kind of knew what to do. It just got done. We had a survey that was put out. It said 3 things that you were most looking forward to when you got back to the States. And I put down taking a hot shower, sleeping in my own bed, and sharing stories and pictures with my wife, because she was supposed to go, but because of a good medical condition that came up, she wasn't able to, but she was there. The other thing that was at nighttime, we did find out that RJ is a night owl. He likes to stay up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But we shared a room. I shared a room with RJ and Rich McGimsey, and we talked a lot about, our faith, why we came, what we were looking for, and just life in general, I guess. It was very overwhelming some nights because RJ told stories of his life in Korea and so forth. To kind of sum things up, I'd always felt called to do something like this. I'd been on many trips with Stephanie and youth missions and just trips in general. This was nothing compared to those. At first I thought it would be, but nothing compared. But I felt called to do something like this. The calling got stronger, and you could feel God's hand there every day. He was obviously there, because some days, like I say, we'd go to bed and you'd say, man, how in the world are we going to get up? Me, I'm an old guy, and I was curious on how I was going to get up in the morning and start all over again. But we got up, we were fresh, we were ready to hit it again. One of the things that, and it's not a regret, it's just something you think about, is the last day we were there, Mr. Dennis came into his house, and it was just overwhelming to see his face, how much he appreciated what we had done. And we were just standing there going, we need to do more. We need to finish the floor. We need to, finish this, that, and the other. But we had run out of time. I'd love to go back. The people were tremendous. Puerto Rico does need more help. And there's many, many places in our country and all across the world that can use the same. But I'd do it again. I'd go with the same people. I encourage you as members of this church and just Christians that if you get the opportunity to step out of your box, don't be afraid to.